The final message. Humanity had been silent for years. The Earth, once bustling with life and activity, had gone quiet. In the vast expanse of space, no one heard from Earth anymore. The great civilizations of the galaxy had moved on, forgetting about the humans. After all, humanity had never been powerful enough to stand against the mighty empires of the stars. The galaxy had changed, and Earth was nothing more than a distant memory. But one day, something changed. It began as a simple signal, a message broadcasted into the void of space. At first, it seemed like just another random transmission, a message that would be ignored, lost in the sea of countless others. But this message was different. It wasn't just a transmission. It was a warning. The message came from Earth itself. It was clear, simple, and direct. Stay away from Earth. If you come, we will fight. The galaxy stopped. The message echoed through the stars, reaching the farthest corners of the universe. Alien civilizations, who had long since forgotten about Earth, suddenly found themselves paying attention. Some laughed. What could a forgotten, weak species like humanity do? Earth had been silent for so long. Surely they had no power left. But there was something in that message, something that sent chills down the spines of even the most powerful alien leaders. It wasn't the words. It was the tone. The message was filled with a quiet defiance, a promise of retribution. For years, Earth had been thought to be a dead planet, left behind by the universe. The great alien empires had their own wars, their own struggles. They didn't need to worry about a primitive species that had never posed a real threat. But now, something was different. The universe had long since forgotten humanity's capacity for survival. They had forgotten the power that humanity once held. Earth had been quiet, but that didn't mean it was defenseless. The civilizations of the galaxy couldn't have known that during humanity's silence, something had been quietly brewing on Earth. There were survivors, people who had been preparing for this moment for years. They had waited in the shadows, gathering strength, building a force that the galaxy could never have imagined. They had seen the universe change, and they knew that if humanity was ever to rise again, it had to do so on its own terms. They couldn't rely on the rest of the galaxy for help. No one would come to save them. Earth's future depended on them, and them alone. And now, with this final message, humanity was making its stand. They weren't going to beg for survival. They weren't going to hide in the shadows anymore. They had waited long enough. They would no longer be a forgotten species. Earth's defenders were ready. The alien empires began to take notice. The message spread across the galaxy, bouncing from one system to the next. Some laughed at the audacity of Earth's people. Others grew nervous. What if this wasn't just an empty threat? What if humanity still had something left to fight with? The question hung in the air. What was this secret that humanity had been hiding? Why had they waited so long to send this message? And more importantly, why had they chosen this moment to send it? Had humanity truly been preparing something for years, or was this just the last, desperate gasp of a dying species? The galaxy's most powerful leaders gathered in secret. The alien empires that once looked down on Earth began to speak in hushed tones. They debated whether or not to respond. Some wanted to ignore the warning, dismissing it as the desperate act of a species trying to regain its relevance. But others feared the unknown. They feared what Earth might have become in its isolation. The message was clear, but the meaning behind it was still shrouded in mystery. For the first time in a long while, Earth was not the forgotten, weak planet it once had been. It was no longer just a dot on a map, a distant memory. Earth had sent a message, and that message would not be ignored. As the message spread, it didn't take long for rumors to start. Some said that humanity had discovered an ancient weapon, a relic from their past that could wipe out entire fleets. Others whispered that Earth had formed an alliance with a powerful, unknown force, something beyond the understanding of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. But no one knew the truth. No one could say for sure what humanity was capable of. The galaxy's fear grew as the message echoed across the stars. Some empires prepared for battle, not sure if they were facing a new threat or just the remnants of a long-forgotten species. They couldn't take any chances. Others, less confident in their own power, hesitated. What if the message was true? What if Earth had something far more dangerous than anyone realized? The once distant Earth was now at the center of the galaxy's attention. The power that humanity had hidden for so long was about to be revealed. The universe had underestimated them, and they were about to learn the price of that mistake. The final message had been sent, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy hummed with uncertainty as the message from Earth spread across the stars. Civilizations, vast and ancient, once thought themselves untouchable. They had long since erased the memory of humanity from their histories. Earth had been nothing more than a speck of dust in the vast universe. Now that speck had spoken, and its voice echoed with a chilling promise. In the heart of the Terran Federation, the leaders sat in a war room. It was a small, quiet room, filled with only the faint hum of technology. The walls were lined with monitors, displaying real-time data from the galaxy's farthest reaches. The message was still fresh, but already their analysts were scrambling to understand it. What did Earth mean? "We've been monitoring the message," said Commander Jenna, her voice steady but laced with concern. "It's clear. Humanity is back, and they're not just back to talk." Her fingers moved quickly across the console in front of her. The monitors around her flickered, displaying images of distant star systems, of ancient civilizations, and of the deadly weapons the galaxy's most powerful empires wielded. But there was something new, a strange, almost imperceptible signal that seemed to come from Earth itself. "Can you make sense of it?" asked Admiral Kale, his eyes narrowing as he watched the screen. Jenna paused, then shook her head. "It's unlike anything we've seen before. It's almost like they're hiding something, a technology we can't decode." The message was meant for everyone, but the subtext, it's like a challenge. The room went silent. The implications of her words sank in. The empires of the galaxy, each one boasting fleets capable of obliterating entire star systems, had ruled unchecked for centuries. What if Earth had something powerful, something dangerous, that could change everything? Far across the galaxy, in the cold depths of space, a fleet of alien warships prepared for what they believed would be a simple task. The Other Dominion, an empire known for its military dominance, had heard the message as well. They laughed at it. Earth was a forgotten world, its resources spent, its people weak. What could they possibly have to offer? They had heard rumors, of course, about humanity's ancient technologies. Nothing more than stories told by traders who had passed through Earth's system centuries ago. But the Other Dominion had conquered worlds far more formidable than Earth. "We've already decided," said Emperor Therak, leader of the Other Dominion, his sharp features illuminated by the dim light of the control room. "We'll send a few ships, make a show of force, and let them know their place. A small, quick operation to remind them who controls the galaxy." His generals nodded in agreement, the arrogance of the Other Dominion palpable. They were the undisputed power of the galaxy, feared by all. Humanity was nothing. But something was nagging at Therak's mind. That message. The way it had sounded, there was something about it, something unsettling. But it was too late to back out now. Orders had been given. The fleet was already in motion. Back on Earth, in a hidden command center deep beneath the surface, the leaders of humanity were not making idle threats. They were preparing. The planet's surface had been silent for years, but underground, a network of humanity's finest minds had been working in secret. Earth's true weapon, its final defense, had been dormant for centuries. Hidden away in massive bunkers beneath the planet's surface, these weapons were the legacy of humanity's past, left behind when they had last fought in the galactic wars. General Reyes stood at the center of the command room, his sharp eyes scanning the various readouts. Around him, A team of engineers, scientists, and military officers worked tirelessly. They knew the galaxy had forgotten Earth. They had counted on it. Now they would remind the galaxy what humanity was capable of. "Initiate the sequence," Riz ordered. A series of heavy doors slid open, revealing a massive hangar filled with towering machines. These machines were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were not mere warships. They were living, breathing weapons of destruction. Created from the remnants of ancient technologies, they were as much a part of Earth as the people who had built them. They were humanity's final defense, ready to fight for survival, for revenge, for their place in the galaxy. "Once this is activated, there's no turning back," said one of the engineers, his voice tight with worry. Riz nodded. "We don't have a choice. The message is out. We either rise to meet the galaxy's challenge, or we fall forever forgotten." As the Other fleet moved closer to Earth, there was still a sense of calm in the galaxy. Many believed that the threat was empty, that Earth had no real power left. The Dominion was confident in its overwhelming strength. They would teach Earth a lesson, one that would remind the galaxy of its rightful rulers. But deep within the Terran Federation, and hidden beneath Earth's surface, humanity knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. They were no longer the weak, forgotten species of old. Earth had never truly been defeated. It had merely been waiting for the right moment to strike back. As the fleet approached Earth, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The message had been sent. The galaxy had heard it. And now the final chapter of humanity's story was about to unfold. Would the Other Dominion be the first to challenge Earth, or would they be the first to learn the truth? The message had only been the beginning. Soon, the universe would see what humanity had become. The Other fleet, composed of 50 mighty warships, arrived in the outskirts of Earth's solar system. Their massive warships glided through the darkness of space, their engines glowing bright against the blackness of the void. The Other Empire had no doubts. They were here to show humanity its place, forgotten, weak, and beneath the galaxy's true rulers. On board the flagship, Emperor Therak leaned forward in his command chair, eyes fixed on the holographic display of Earth. The blue planet appeared peaceful, vulnerable, but it was nothing more than a shell of what it once was. The stories of humanity's past strength were exaggerated, he thought. No match for the might of the Other. "Prepare the fleet," Therak ordered. His voice was calm, but there was a sharpness in his eyes, as if the faint remnants of doubt still lingered. "We'll show them the price of arrogance." But just as the Other ships began to move toward Earth, something unexpected happened. The stars around them flickered. A strange, eerie glow emanated from deep within the solar system. The ships paused, and the silence in the command room was broken by the voice of the fleet's lead officer. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth." Therak raised an eyebrow, confused. From Earth? Are they trying to talk? He scoffed at the idea. It was too late for words. He nodded for the communication to be opened. The hologram flickered, and a simple message flashed across the screen. The words, though few, were enough to make the entire bridge fall silent. "Humanity has returned. Stand down or face the consequences." The message was brief, but its impact was undeniable. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, the words hanging in the air like an unspoken threat. Therak felt a chill run down his spine. His mind raced. Humanity. Return. Was this the message from Earth? Was that it? A threat? Therak asked, his voice laced with disbelief. He could feel his hand tighten around the armrests of his chair. He had expected a declaration of surrender, not this cryptic warning. How could they have done this? His second-in-command, General Drekar, leaned forward. "The message came from Earth, but it's not just words, my lord. It's a signal. Something is active on the planet. Something we cannot fully identify." Therak clenched his fists. He had heard whispers of the lost technologies of Earth, legends of powerful weapons that could alter the balance of power in the galaxy. But this This was not what he had expected. His mind raced, trying to piece together the pieces of this puzzle. "Send out a reconnaissance drone," Theric commanded. "Let's see what Earth is hiding." The drone was released and sped toward the planet, its cameras and sensors scanning everything in its path. It was only moments before the drone reached Earth's atmosphere and began sending live footage back to the fleet. The footage displayed images of the surface, nothing unusual. Cities, mountains, oceans. The planet appeared peaceful, calm, much as it had for centuries. But as the drone descended deeper into Earth's atmosphere, something shifted. The cameras began to flicker. And then, just as quickly as the images had appeared, they vanished. The drone's connection to the fleet was severed. Static filled the command room as Theric and his officers stared in disbelief. "Report," Theric demanded. The officers scrambled, trying to get a signal back, but all they could hear was static. It was as if Earth itself had swallowed the drone whole. Theric's heart pounded in his chest. He had no idea what was happening, but he could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface of Earth, humanity's true weapon was awakening. In hidden bunkers, vast machines, more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever known, powered up. These ancient war machines, forgotten by time and buried beneath layers of secrecy, began to hum with life. Their creators had been long gone, but the technology they had left behind had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the galaxy to come knocking. General Reyes stood in the heart of the underground facility, watching as the machines came to life. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Massive mechanical titans, their exteriors gleaming with a strange iridescent metal that seemed to absorb the light around them. The air in the room was thick with anticipation. The machines were ready. The message was clear, General Reyes said, his voice calm but determined. "Humanity has returned, and we will not be silenced again." The team around him nodded. They had waited years for this moment, the moment when Earth would stand tall once more. Now, humanity's ultimate weapon was ready, and the galaxy was about to feel its wrath. Back in space, the Othar fleet had grown uneasy. The silence following the failed drone mission hung heavy. Theric, trying to maintain his composure, paced back and forth in front of his officers. "Is this a trap?" Theric muttered to himself, his eyes locked on the holographic image of Earth. "What are they hiding?" Before anyone could respond, the Othar fleet's sensors began to beep frantically. Something massive was moving, something that had never been seen before. The officers' faces went pale as they looked at the readings. It was a ship, but it wasn't like anything they had ever encountered. It was enormous, with an energy signature unlike anything they had in their databases. "Impossible," Theric whispered. His eyes widened as the realization hit him. The ship was coming from Earth. The message had been a warning, not just words. Humanity had something far more terrifying than anyone had expected. The Othar Dominion had underestimated them, and now they were about to pay the price. It wasn't just the message that Earth had sent. It was what had been hidden beneath the surface all along. And now, that power was unleashed. The Othar fleet hovered at the edge of Earth's solar system, their ships suspended in the vacuum of space. They had no idea what to expect next. The massive warship, emerging from the planet's surface, was growing closer by the second. Its energy readings were unlike anything they had ever encountered before, and the air on the bridge was thick with tension. Theric, the Emperor of the Othar, stood frozen in place, his eyes locked onto the holographic display of the approaching ship. It was enormous, far larger than anything the Othar had ever built. It was a relic, an ancient titan from a long-forgotten age, its shape and design strange and foreign. But one thing was clear. It was heading straight for them. "Are we sure this is coming from Earth?" General Drekar asked, his voice tight with disbelief. "Yes," Theric replied slowly, his voice low, his fingers gripping the armrest of his chair. "It's coming from Earth. But how? How could they have hidden something like this?" The ship on the hologram, was unlike any warship the Othar had ever seen. Its hull shimmered with a strange iridescence, as though the ship itself were alive, pulsing with energy. It was massive, far larger than anything the Othar had ever dared to construct. A weapon of unimaginable power was hurtling toward them, and they had no idea what it was capable of. The Othar fleet remained motionless as they waited for orders. Therak, his mind racing, knew they had to act fast. If this ship truly came from Earth, it could be the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. But could they stop it? Or was it already too late? The strange ship continued to approach, its speed increasing with each passing moment. The Othar ships, despite their technological advancements, seemed small and insignificant in comparison. The unknown ship had no regard for their presence. It was a message. Earth was no longer afraid, and it was ready to fight back. Therak's mind raced, considering all options. Should they try to destroy the ship before it got closer? Or was there something more sinister at play? He stared at the ship on the screen, trying to fathom its true nature. The message from Earth hadn't been a threat. It had been a declaration. "Sir, we are receiving a signal," one of the officers reported, breaking the silence. "It's coming from the ship." Therak's heart skipped a beat. "Put it on screen." A deep voice, cold and menacing, echoed through the bridge. "This is Earth. You have been warned. Leave now or face the consequences." The words sent a shiver down everyone's spine. The voice was unyielding, confident, and without mercy. It was the voice of a civilization that had been underestimated for far too long. The Othar had believed they could sweep humanity aside with ease, but they were now realizing that Earth had far more power than they had ever imagined. The Othar officers exchanged nervous glances. This wasn't just a message, it was a challenge, and Earth's ultimate weapon was the one delivering it. "Sir, the ship's weapons are charging," General Drakkar said, his voice tense. "It's preparing to fire." Therak's eyes widened. This was it, the moment he had been dreading. Earth had something far more powerful than anything the Othar fleet had ever encountered. The energy readings coming from the ship were unlike anything in the galaxy. It was impossible to predict what would happen next. "Prepare to engage," Therak ordered, his voice steady, though a wave of unease surged through him. "We will not be intimidated by these primitive threats." But deep down, Therak knew that Earth had something far more powerful than the Othar fleet could handle. The ship's energy was building to a breaking point, and it was clear that humanity's last warning was no mere bluff. As the Othar fleet readied their weapons and prepared for combat, a sudden surge of energy burst from the massive Earth warship. A blinding beam of light shot out, striking the lidship of the Othar fleet with terrifying force. The Othar flagship shook violently as the beam ripped through its defenses, tearing through the hull like paper. The crew on board struggled to maintain control as alarms blared throughout the ship. Therak's hands gripped the command chair with white knuckles as the ship's systems scrambled to stay online. "The flagship has been hit," one of the officers shouted. "Damage is critical. Shields are down." Therak's mind raced. How could this be? They were facing a weapon unlike any they had ever seen. The energy beam from Earth's warship had torn through the Othar flagship with ease, leaving the ship crippled and on the verge of destruction. This wasn't a primitive civilization. This was something else entirely. "Deploy all remaining ships," Therak shouted, his voice a mix of fury and disbelief. "We cannot let this be the end. We will not be defeated by a single ship." But as the Othar fleet scrambled to retaliate, another beam of light shot out from the Earth warship, this time hitting a second Othar warship. The energy radiated through the ship, causing it to explode in a flash of blinding light. The Othar fleet was being decimated. Earth's weapon was proving to be too much for them to handle. And the message was clear. Humanity was not gone. It had been waiting, biding its time. Now, Earth's wrath was unleashed, and the galaxy would tremble in fear. The Othar fleet had made the ultimate mistake. They had underestimated humanity. And now they would pay the price. As the final remnants of the Othar fleet disintegrated under the relentless fire of Earth's warship, the universe itself seemed to pause. Silence hung in the void. The once proud Othar, who had struck terror across countless star systems, were now nothing more than a fading memory. Burnt remnants scattered across the cold, empty expanse of space. In their place stood humanity's greatest weapon, glowing with an energy that could annihilate entire fleets in mere moments. Tharok, the Othar Emperor, was not a man to show weakness, but in this moment his pride had shattered. His empire, his people, his grand ambitions, everything had crumbled in the face of Earth's wrath. His flagship, once the pride of the Othar fleet, was now a flaming husk, drifting in the cosmic void. His fleet, the one that had once dominated galaxies, had been torn apart as easily as paper. This cannot be happening. Tharok roared, pacing the ruins of his command center. We were supposed to be invincible. Earth, how could they have such power? In the wreckage of his fleet, Tharok knew there was no escape. His forces had been obliterated. His pride had been broken. His mind raced, trying to think of a way out, but there was no answer. The last of the Othar ships had been reduced to debris, and Earth's warship was still advancing. Back on Earth, the message had already been broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Across countless systems, news of the devastation had spread like wildfire. The Othar were defeated. A new power had emerged from the shadows. The message Earth had sent was not only a warning but also a declaration of dominance. The first response came from the Xantari Confederation, a once powerful coalition of races that had long watched humanity from a distance. Their High Council was in chaos, unable to process what had just happened. They wiped out the Othar, one of the Xantari leaders muttered, staring at the data streams coming in from the now shattered Othar fleet. How could they have such a weapon? We need to prepare. But how do we fight something like this? The Xantari had long prided themselves on their technology, their fleets, and their ability to maintain peace across the galaxy. But now, they realized how fragile their power truly was. One ship, just one, had taken down an entire fleet, and their forces were nowhere near strong enough to face it. Meanwhile, in another corner of the galaxy, the Terran High Command was receiving updates from their newly risen superweapon, the Earth warship that had obliterated the Othar. They knew that the galaxy was watching, waiting for the next move. But what would it be? This was uncharted territory. In the underground bunkers deep within Earth's military complex, General Lorraine Carter, the commander of Earth's newly revealed superweapon, was reviewing the reports. The ship was still moving through the solar system, but the damage to the Othar fleet had already been done. The message had been sent. Now she had to prepare for what would come next. We have shown them our strength, she said, her voice cold and confident. But we must remain vigilant. There will be those who will not accept this power. They will come for us, and we will be ready. The world was on the brink of a new era, but that era would not come without challenges. The Othar were just the beginning. Earth's superweapon had shaken the galaxy to its core, but in the vast reaches of space, there were countless others who might now see humanity as a threat. Would they bow to Earth's might, or would they attempt to strike back, hoping to crush what they could not understand? General Carter stood in front of a massive holographic map of the galaxy, her fingers tracing the paths of potential threats. The Othar were no more, but the Xantari, the Akron Dominion, and countless other factions still existed. They were watching, and soon they would decide what to do about the Terran superweapon. The galaxy is changing, she muttered, and we will control that change. But even as she spoke with such authority, doubt lingered in her mind. She had witnessed firsthand the terrifying power of Earth's weapon. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The silence that had fallen across the galaxy was now replaced with a growing sense of uncertainty. Some whispered that Earth was a force to be reckoned with, too powerful to challenge. Others feared that the rise of humanity could mean the end of their civilizations. And far from Earth, on a distant planet, a mysterious figure watched the events unfold. His eyes gleamed with a quiet knowing, his fingers lightly tapping the edge of a glowing console. He had seen humanity's final message to the galaxy, and he understood what it meant. "They've awakened," he whispered to himself, his voice barely audible over the soft hum of his ship's engines. "And they will not be ignored." With a flick of his wrist, he initiated a communication to his superiors. He had a plan, a way to push humanity back into the shadows. The galaxy would not be so easily dominated. The forces of the old empires would rise, and the Terran superweapon would soon find itself facing its first true challenge. The battle for the galaxy was just beginning, and humanity had no idea what was coming next. As the galaxy trembled in the wake of Earth's devastating show of power, General Carter and her forces prepared for what they knew would come next. The destruction of the Othar had sent shockwaves throughout the known universe. But in the depths of space, where no eyes could see, a storm was beginning to form, one that no one on Earth could predict. Far beyond the reaches of Earth's most advanced sensors, the mysterious figure who had watched the destruction of the Othar fleet now moved to put his plan into action. He was no stranger to power, nor to the forces that controlled the galaxy. In fact, his organization had been watching humanity for years, studying their rise, waiting for the moment when they would emerge from the shadows and become a threat. That moment had arrived. His name was Zoreth, leader of a forgotten alliance that existed outside the control of the galactic empires. This alliance had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall, and in that time, they had learned one important lesson. When a new power emerges that disrupts the balance, it must be crushed before it grows too strong. Zoreth sat in the darkened command center of his ship, the shadows of his crew moving silently around him. His eyes narrowed as he reviewed the data coming in from multiple sources across the galaxy. The news of the Terran superweapon had spread quickly, and he knew Earth was now a name on the lips of every galactic power. "They've done it," Zoreth muttered, his voice low but full of quiet rage. "They've awakened the beast." Earth's final message had been clear. Humanity was no longer a small, insignificant species. They were a force to be reckoned with, and in the hands of the right leaders, they could reshape the galaxy. Zoreth, however, did not see this as an opportunity for peace or diplomacy. To him, humanity represented a growing threat to everything his alliance had worked for in the shadows. He turned to his communications officer, a pale-skinned alien with sharp features. "Send the message to the Council. It's time to act." The officer nodded and hurriedly began transmitting the signal to the other factions of Zoreth's alliance. It was a message of unity, a call to arms. The galaxy was on the brink of a new order, and it was time to remind humanity that no one challenged the established powers without consequences. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Carter and the Terran High Command were preparing for the fallout of their victory. The Othar were gone, but the rest of the galaxy was still out there, watching, waiting. There was no way to know just how many enemies had been stirred by the awakening of Earth's ultimate weapon. Every day, new reports came in from the outer colonies, signs of increasing unrest, whispers of conspiracy, and rumors of galactic fleets massing in distant sectors. "We've made an enemy of the galaxy," Carter said quietly, staring at the holographic map that displayed the positions of the known fleets. "But we don't know where the next threat will come from." The Terran superweapon was still in motion, orbiting Earth as a symbol of their newfound might. But the reality was that Earth was not invincible. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless civilizations, each with its own ambitions. Some of them would see humanity's power as a challenge to their own dominance, and others, like Zoreth's hidden alliance, would view it as a direct threat to the delicate balance they had worked so hard to maintain. The High Command had prepared for the worst, but even they couldn't predict how fast things were about to escalate. The alliances that had kept the galaxy in a fragile state of peace were now cracking. The fear that had gripped the Othar, the Xantari, and the other galactic powers was beginning to spread. The idea of a new superpower, one that had risen from nothing, was a fear that could not be ignored. The galaxy had been comfortable in its old order, and humanity's rise had shattered that illusion of security. At that moment, an emergency alert flashed across the High Command's communication screen. The message was simple, but its meaning was undeniable. Unidentified fleet massing at the edge of the Andromeda sector. Unknown alliance. Escalating threat. Carter's eyes narrowed as she scanned the data. The Andromeda sector was a disputed region, home to several different factions and neutral zones. But the size of the fleet, the sheer numbers, sent a chill down her spine. This wasn't just a random fleet. It was a declaration of war. "We need to act," Carter said, slamming her fist onto the table. "We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of. But now we need to prove we can defend it. Mobilize the fleet. Prepare for battle." The command room erupted into action as officers scrambled to relay orders and prepare Earth's forces for the unknown threat approaching. But in the back of Carter's mind, a nagging feeling lingered. This was no random fleet. This was a coordinated strike, and it had the markings of Zorath's alliance. As the countdown to confrontation began, Carter's mind raced. She had witnessed firsthand the destructive power of Earth's superweapon. But was it enough to stand against the unknown forces of the galaxy? Would they be ready to face what was coming next? The final message humanity had sent to the galaxy might have been heard, but its true consequences were only just beginning to unfold. Zorath's forces were closing in, and soon, humanity would face its first real test. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, was hanging in the balance. The stars above Earth flickered with an eerie calm, as if the universe itself held its breath. The Terran fleet was mobilized and ready, its warships lined up in perfect formation, each ship a testament to humanity's technological might. General Carter stood at the helm of the flagship, Tempest, staring out at the endless expanse of space. She knew what was coming, but no amount of preparation could erase the gnawing uncertainty that gripped her. The fleet's sensors detected the approaching enemy before the first ship appeared on the radar. It wasn't just one fleet, but several, each one massive and heavily armed, their forms emerging from the depths of space like predators closing in on their prey. The unknown alliance led by Zorath had arrived. "Here they come," Carter muttered, her voice grim. She turned to her communications officer. "Send the message to all ships. Prepare for the worst." As the enemy fleet drew closer, the comms channels came alive with frantic reports and orders. The scale of the incoming assault was unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Even with the Terran superweapon in orbit, no one could deny the overwhelming numbers of Zorath's alliance. It was a galaxy-spanning force, battle-hardened, ruthless, and intent on wiping out humanity before it could truly rise to power. "Sir, the enemy is not responding to our hails," a young officer reported, his face pale with anxiety. "They're not here to negotiate." "We didn't expect them to be," Carter replied coldly, her hands resting on the controls. "Prepare to engage." The silence before the storm was broken by the deafening roar of a massive fleet descending from the outer edge of the solar system. Massive warships, bristling with weapons, appeared as dark silhouettes against the backdrop of distant stars. They were led by Zorath's flagship, a gargantuan vessel that dwarfed the Terran ships in size and firepower. "All Terran ships, open fire," Carter ordered, her voice a sharp command that cut through the tension in the room. Immediately, the Tempest's weapon systems locked onto the enemy targets, unleashing a barrage of high-energy blasts. The first wave of shots hit their targets, sending enemy vessels spiraling into chaos. The ground beneath Carter's feet seemed to shake with each explosion that rippled through space. It was only the beginning. The battle was fierce. Terran warships fired relentlessly, their sleek designs cutting through the void like predators, chasing down their prey. The enemy responded with an onslaught of their own, their ships bristling with weapons that sent powerful blasts streaking through space. The Tempest rocked as a blast hit its shields, sending sparks flying throughout the command center. "We can't hold them off forever," the ship's tactical officer shouted, sweat pouring down his face. "Their numbers are overwhelming." But Carter refused to back down. She had seen humanity face impossible odds before and come out victorious. Now, as the battle raged on, she knew they had one last advantage. The Terran superweapon, Earth's ultimate weapon, was still in orbit, waiting for its moment to strike. "Ready the superweapon," Carter ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "It's time to end this." The fleet had been built around this weapon, the one thing that could turn the tide of the war in humanity's favor. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's defiance, a message to the galaxy that Earth would not be subjugated. The superweapon, an enormous energy cannon built into an orbiting satellite, hummed to life as it began to charge. The energy buildup was immense, drawing on all of Earth's remaining power reserves. The sky above seemed to darken as the weapon's energy reached critical levels. Carter's hand hovered over the button that would launch the weapon, but something in the back of her mind told her to wait. In that moment, she saw it, an opportunity. Zorath's flagship had pushed too far forward, leaving a gap in his formation. The Terran fleet was holding its ground, but the enemy was beginning to encircle them, leaving no room for escape. The Tempest was dangerously close to the front lines, but if they could take down the flagship, the entire enemy force would crumble. "Sir," a voice broke through her thoughts. "We've got a clear shot at Zorath's flagship. Do we take it?" Carter didn't hesitate. "Fire everything we've got." The Terran fleet unleashed its full fury on Zorath's flagship, sending wave after wave of devastating firepower toward the massive ship. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the enemy vessel was rocked by the varage. The flagship fought back, but the weight of the Terran assault was too much. Carter held her breath as the final shot struck the enemy flagship, and with a massive explosion, the ship disintegrated into a cloud of debris. The Terran fleet had dealt a decisive blow. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to pause. The warships from Zorath's alliance halted in their tracks, their crew members stunned by the destruction of their command ship. It was a turning point. Carter knew that victory was within their grasp, but there was no time to celebrate. As the enemy fleet began to retreat, Carter's eyes were fixed on the battle ahead. The war was far from over. Zorath's alliance had many ships, and they would regroup. But Earth had shown them one thing: they were not to be underestimated. "Prepare for the next wave," Carter ordered, her voice filled with determination. "We've won today, but the galaxy won't forget this message. Humanity is here, and we're not going anywhere." With Earth's ultimate weapon unleashed, the battle had shifted in humanity's favor, but the cost was high. The war for the future of Earth had only just begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.